everyone, and welcome to our Women's History Month celebration. My name is Kelly Finn Stormer. I'm the Executive Director at the Combined Arms Institute, and it is my privilege to be here with you today as your host. I am so excited to celebrate the women that have paved the way before us, and thank you to our guests, to our friends, to our women veterans, to our supporters for joining us today. We are so thrilled that you've made the time to celebrate and acknowledge the women before us. It has been 100 years, 100 plus years since we passed the 19th Amendment and women had the right to vote. We acknowledge all of the contributions of the women that paved the way before us. We understand that our history is important to take a time to recognize, to reflect, and to really pave the way for a better future. We want to acknowledge our past so that we can create a better America for generations to come. So I thank you for taking the time and investing in this today. We are so excited to share with you. As we all know, sometimes our history can be painful. It takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get where we're going. And so it's fun to acknowledge and celebrate those accomplishments that have been hard to endure. And we know this week has been a hard week to endure in our nation's history. And we want to just take a moment to acknowledge the Asian American community, specifically the women that lost their lives, and understand that we want to pay tribute to all of those that are contributing to our society. We see you, we love you, and we acknowledge your efforts as part of our society, and we will not tolerate the 3,800 plus incidents over the past year against our Asian American community, and we stand in solidarity with you. So thank you so much. We promise to make it a better future for all of us. But today we really want to acknowledge and spend some time focusing on our women veterans and all of the accomplishments that they've paved the way for us for today. We have some incredible panelists and people that are going to share with us, and I'm so excited to share the stage with them today. Combined Arms, as I said, we're just simply your host. We are here to unite the community and accelerate the impacts of veterans and families in the communities where they live. We have partnered with some incredible organizations, and they are the foundation that help us to ensure that no veteran or military family member falls through the cracks. We want to make sure that everyone has access to high quality resources in the communities where they live. And like I said, I'm Kelly Stormer, I'm a Navy veteran, and I'm here to share my history with you as well today. It's important that we recognize our partners who are serving our women veterans every day. And so I want to say a special thanks to the Mission Continues, Grace After Fire, and the Foundation for Women Warriors for joining us in celebrating this event and sharing. I know many of you are here on behalf of these organizations, and so we welcome you. It's at Combined Arms, we want to make sure we connect you with those critical platforms that can help you to make that transition. And these are some great partners that are leading the way. From East Coast to West Coast, we're here to celebrate you. The Mission Continues, while not women specific, does have women veteran leadership program that they launched in 2020. And they're really just helping to connect women, elevate them into their conversations. And so we encourage you to research more about that program if you might want to participate in that. They want to make sure that women are networking, connecting into workshops, get skill building and everything else, because they want to address some of the challenges that women face as they make that transition. More specifically, Grace After Fire is one of our women veteran partners in Texas, and they serve women veterans to gain knowledge, focus, and self-renewal. And they've shifted a couple years ago. It's important to learn from our history that they've shifted from focusing on women's challenges to women empowerment. So thank you, Grace After Fire, for the work that you're doing. And finally, Foundation for Women Warriors, really just meeting the needs of women in Southern California. They want to enhance the personal and economic well-being of women veterans and their children. And we just acknowledge all of the great work that these women-specific programming are doing across the nation. And also, I want to acknowledge that all of these organizations are also led by women veterans. And so we acknowledge and celebrate you, Mary Beth, Jody, and Mia for the great work that you do as a woman championing other women. We want to make this fun and exciting, so tell us where you are today. Write in the chat what town you're in. Let us know where you are. I'm in Newtown, Pennsylvania today and excited to be here. Here's all of our social channels. We would love to hear from you. I love kind of all the feedback. So when you hear something really cool and exciting, we want to know what that is. Give us a shout out to all of our partners. Here's our channels. And we will just be thrilled to retweet and love to hear kind of all of what's inspiring for you today. And we want to make time to ensure that our focus is that you have the opportunity to find something exciting and get engaged. So that's our goal, that you feel inspired to take an action. We're going to learn about the Women in Military Service Memorial, some trailblazers that have paved the way for us. We even have a few here with us today. We're going to honor the 6888. And if you don't know about these women, you're in for a treat. I'm so excited about this. And we're also going to share about the Her Story campaign and how you can help register a woman, their story, celebrate the stories of military women's service members, put it on record for history and generations to come. And then finally, learn about our Women Veteran Needs Assessment that's currently going on so that we can pave the way for future programming. But like I said, I am not the star of this show, and I am thrilled to introduce to you today Phyllis Wilson, from the president of the Military Women's Memorial. Phyllis, if you want to join me on camera, I'd love to introduce you. Right now, I'm just going to tell her story, hashtag. Look, if you guys don't know Phyllis, I mean, you do now. This woman is a trailblazer, and I've got to get her bio out just to read from it because it's so incredible. She began her Army career as a military intelligence German linguist voice intercept operator. I mean, that just sounds cool enough in and of itself, right? Stop there. 37 years of active and reserve Army service. Thank you, Phyllis. It includes Operations Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Enduring Freedom, 2 deployments to Iraq. Chief Warrant Officer 5. I mean, full stop. We could just stop there. Respect. She served as the 5th Command Chief Warrant Officer for the United States Army Reserve. And if that's not enough, right? Phyllis has a master's degree in management, a bachelor's of science as a registered nurse, and a liberal arts degree in sociology and German, and a certificate in nonprofit management from Duke University, and pursuing a second master's degree. Look, I mean, it's time to get busy, ladies and gentlemen. She's, like I said, she's currently the president of the Women Military Service Memorial and just advocating on behalf of so many women. She is the epitome of women championing women. And not to mention, as if you guys thought that wasn't enough, she has 8 children, the perfect American blended family. But we tribute you, Joseph, Jeremy, Rebecca, Matthias, Rachel, Jared, Maria, and Jesse. 4 of her sons are combat veterans, and 12 grandchildren. Look, we could spend the next hour just talking about you, and I know that's not what we're there, but her story, your story is incredible, Phyllis, and I just thank you for spending this time with us today.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly. That was, gosh, I sound pretty cool, and I'm not, but you live long enough, you have enough kids, I could tell for the next hour about 12 grandbabies, let me tell you. I'm very proud. Best job ever, besides the job I have that you see the slide on, the Military Women's Memorial. We are located at the ceremonial entrance to Arlington National Cemetery. Pretty doggone cool. So our mission is quite simple. We honor and tell the stories of all of the women, 3 million of us, past and present, that have defended this nation from the Revolutionary War till today. And one of the key things is we talked a little bit more about the Her Story campaign that we've got is we are the only place in the world that is a historical repository that documents every one of our military stories as told first person, if you choose, or in the case of my sister who wouldn't choose, I registered her myself. So I got to be a little more freewheeling on what I wanted to tell about my big sister that felt like she had not done enough to deserve the right to have her story told at the memorial. Well, I can't be the president of the place and let my sister not be claimed, right? So we did that. And this is what it is. We have 3 million women that should have their stories in the repository here. We have 300,000, 10%. So any of you that are not yet part of this story, this is for you and for anybody you know, a grandmother, a great aunt, a sister, a niece, a cousin, a daughter. Any of these that have or are serving should claim their place here in our database, and we'll show you how to do that. So let's go to the next slide. She's like, I have to drive the slides too? Oh no. So behind that beautiful wall you see with the red, white, and blue banners, that wall was built in 1932 as a retaining wall. In the 1990s, we dug out all behind there and built an education center, a 200-seat movie theater. Think of it, it feels a lot like a museum when you walk in there, where we start with the Revolutionary War and we come full tilt to today to tell the stories of the women that have defended this country and the trials, the tribulations, the service, the sacrifice, and the incredible achievements that we have made, not only for ourselves and our military, but I argue for society as a whole. So this is what the Education Center does. It was authorized by Congress back in the 80s. It took us more than a decade to raise the money to build it, but it was opened in 1997. So this October will be 24 years. Now for our 25th anniversary, October of 2022, look out. We're planning some big events. So save the date, mark it right around October 18th. We'll pick a weekend, one way or the other, and we're going to do some big events there. But our key things, what our foundation does, we have a foundation. It's a charity, a 501c3, that we've been in place since before the memorial opened. Our job is to operate and maintain the memorial. And how do we do that? A lot of it, of course, my gosh, I feel like I'm the full-time fundraiser, because we have to make the money in order to pay the staff, to care for all of the artifacts, the memorabilia, the oral histories that we already have, and the more that we want to continue to add to it, but to maintain that registry, because it is the heart of the memorial and the Education Center. The individual stories are in our database, and we have now, just this year, backed it up to the cloud, because before that it was in a standalone server. And if that crashed, we would have lost stories that were nowhere else, could have never been replaced. If the memorial, God bless it, we love it, but if it fell down, we could rebuild it. If that original database had crashed before we had it backed up, I don't think we could have rebuilt it. So the registry is the heart and soul of everything we do. So that's the fundamentals of what our foundation staff does. We work away from the memorial, but 2 locations, 1 big mission. So let's talk a little bit about military women by the numbers, and who do we have as currently serving? If you look on the blue left-hand side there, it gives you the 15% in the Army, up to 20% in the Air Force, and of course the Marine Corps is consistently the lowest percentage of just 9% of women make up the Marine Corps. Now, quick fun fact, until the late 1960s, we were prohibited from being more than 2% of the military. Legally, Congress had to change it to allow us to not only exceed 2% of the total force, but we also had a rank cap. You couldn't go above 05. And part of that was, and one of the ladies that's been here for a long time, Lieutenant Colonel Marilla Cushman, has been here since this place opened. And she's like our walking encyclopedia. And she shared that part of the reason Congress limited that, where we couldn't be more than 2%, and we also could not hold rank above that, is they didn't want women to stay in so long that they would get to menopause age, because women can't make good decisions when you're at that point in your life. So honestly, that was one of the reasons why we couldn't stay in so long. It's a little crazy. But as we look at veteran population now that we are filling out and getting closer and closer to being 20% of currently serving, we're finding that on the veteran side, our numbers, while we're at about 10% now, they predict by 2030, 2040, 2050, we're ever increasing in the percent of veteran population. So we're really looking at how can our services, veteran services, the VA and others, cover down and help better understand and answer the special needs and requirements that women veterans do have. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. Next slide. So who do we influence and why do we influence? Again, there's more than 350,000 women that are currently in the Guard, in the active Guard Reserve Forces, currently serving. But we look across each of these women who have all been role models for me and for any other woman that has ever served. But we look at not just when we opened in 1997 to 40,000 people, because from our rooftop terrace, where you can see behind me, if you stand on that rooftop looking out towards Washington, D.C., there is nothing between us and the Lincoln Memorial. 40,000 people lined all the way down, women in tears because they had never once been thanked for their service. And they were there that day to claim their place. And I think that's why we have got to continue to claim our place within this database to prove that everything they did to lay the groundwork for us, we're going to claim that we've made further rungs up the ladder, if you will, in defense of them. So let's go on to the next slide. So this is sort of a picture of what it looks like inside currently within the education center. And as I said, it starts, you're coming up to the World War II section, but we start with the Revolution, come all the way down and tell these stories. And one of the things, this is fairly similar, if not exactly the same as what it looked like when we opened in 1997. And we fell on very hard financial times for a period of time. And we're coming up out of that. And we are in the midst now of dreaming and envisioning. We just this morning had a meeting with Gallagher and Associates, who designed the World War II Museum down in New Orleans and so many others. They're working with us. The Women's Memorial is going to have a world-class, high-tech, new feel and look to it in just a couple of years. So we're really excited. We love what we have here. And as a matter of fact, we built a calendar this year, sort of a keepsake calendar that is up close, high-res photos of every one of these primary exhibits that walks you through. And you can compare and contrast and see how much the advances are from the Civil War to World War II to the Cold War era. Let's not forget, there's a lot of women that never served in a combat zone. Luck of the draw, right? And we want them to be sure that we're telling their story of service in the Cold War era. A peace dividend should be something to be celebrated as well. So let's go to the next slide.
Absolutely.
We'll roll on through to the next. So these are our mission pillars. We have really 4, but how we honor and tell the great stories of the women that, again, like I said, from the Revolutionary War to today. And sadly, a lot of our younger women have no idea the restrictions that women had, even I, when I joined in the early 80s, things that I was precluded from doing, certainly. I couldn't serve, but I was, to your point, as a German linguist, I was in Germany, and we had East Germany then, and we were concerned that the Soviets were going to come right up through Germany, overrun us, and so we defended that whole area called the Fulda Gap. Well, it would not have taken long at all had they done what we had anticipated, till I was going to be on completely the wrong side of the battle line, right? So the idea that we weren't, combat soldiers and all these things was crazy then, as it was back to the Revolutionary period. So this is how we honor, is by telling their individual singular stories as well as collective tales in different eras. So we encourage anybody, if you haven't visited it, that's one thing, but go to our website. We have a virtual 360 tour. You can spin all the way around, go up on the roof, look around. So check that out on our womensmemorial.org page. Next slide.
Yeah, and if 2020 hasn't taught us anything other than to enjoy virtual museum exhibits, I don't know what has. So
correct. One of the other things we do, this is sort of, we say we have 4 pillars. This is educate and empower, because we believe through education, it's what leads to the empowerment of our young boys, girls, men, women, is to understand what we have done in order to celebrate where you're going to next. So again, that registry, that digital repository that's nothing else like it in the world, the oral histories, we have over 1,500 oral histories going back to World War I, where a woman sat and was able to talk to us about her recollections of being the few women that were able to enlist for the first time ever, enlist in during World War I. As a matter of fact, when we opened and those 40,000 people were there in 1997, we had 2 living World War I veterans there. They were over 100 years old, and one of them spoke that day. And to your point, Kelly, she said, when I served in the Navy, women weren't even allowed to vote. And the best part of that day, which I didn't even know about the memorial, but I wish I had, but I see a picture of this Navy yeomanette from World War I standing next to Eileen Collins, a female astronaut. I mean, oh my God,
right?
look at what this woman did for us. She doesn't even know. She couldn't have imagined. I mean, airplanes were new in World War I. The idea that a woman was going to stand next to her that had flown one of our women's memorial pins into outer space and brought it back to us, and we have it at our foundation headquarters. It's just amazing. And you can buy the same kind of pin as what she flew into outer space and wear it on your lapel too. It's just, these stories are so fascinating, but you've got to be able to compare and contrast what these generations have done. And that's what we try to do. Our displays are world class. We have programs now. If you go to our website, you'll find under Learn exactly what you need to do. There's both virtual as well as in-person programs that we're really building out more and more all the time. And then of course, our job is to remember those that have gone before us, those that have paid the ultimate price. And I think it's just really important, again, that register, the oral histories, and the artifacts. We have the largest collection of uniforms, boots, photos, diaries, journals, letters, you name it, we have it. Think of Raiders of the Lost Ark at the end, and they're wheeling another big crate into that big warehouse. That's about what it feels like, because we just have amazing things. Dresses made out of parachute silk, because their soldier boy found a French seamstress over there that, you know, turned that parachute into a wedding gown, and they were married over in France. And these are amazing artifacts we have there. And then of course, the traveling exhibits that come to us. These are outside entities that have reached out to us, and we can see how it would connect. So let's go on, next slide.
And it's so incredible, right? And so important as we think about even just living in history. You never think about it. You're talking about those uniforms and everything else, but I'm going, you know, as a Navy veteran, we've changed our cover. Well, like since I've gotten out of the service, I'm part of the hashtag Save the Bucket, right? But I love that. Who would have ever thought your uniform piece could be in a memorial? And I thank you for that. It's so amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So here's one of these great stories of why when you register your story of service, you can tell, and you can do it all online, all by yourself, upload your own photo. We'll show you how Kelly did hers. But there was one of an Army nurse, she served in Vietnam, and her memorable story had to do with Twinkies. And sure enough, her sister mails her a box of Twinkies that when she rips it open, she can't wait, finally, package from home, which any of us that have been away from home, even basic training, and you get a package from home, of course you got to share it with everybody, but nonetheless, she opens it up and it's crawling with ants. She is so dejected. Her roommate though says, hey, wait a minute, we have a freezer, throw it in there, it'll kill the ants, you flick them off. And the bottom line of her memorable experience, Flo says, those were the best damn Twinkies of my life. And I fell in love with her. And I just thought that's emblematic of what we do. You turn it around for something good. And so what these nearly 9,000 nurses did over in Vietnam is just incredible for the number of casualties that they cared for. And I just want to make sure you all know, on the Vietnam Memorial Wall, that beautiful black granite wall that's up here in Washington, D.C., there are 8 women's names on that, and all 8 are nurses. They all died in Vietnam, and it's important that we know that they are there. A lot of people don't realize that out of that 58,000 names, granted 8 are women. I was getting ready to advance the next slide, and I realized I gotta wait for Kelly to do that. So let's talk a little bit about this amazing World War II unit. Now, I know that Jody from Foundation for Women Warriors knows all about this, because she and I co-moderated, if you will, a screening of the documentary on 6888. They're the 6888, so 38, so 888 Postal Battalion, only thing like it in the world. If you see that picture of all those mail bags, they had warehouse after warehouse after warehouse. These 855 African-American women arrive in theater in England in 1945, right after the Battle of the Bulge. All of this mail is backlogged because with that big battle, you couldn't figure out who to get mail to whom. So they had to go old school, because there was no technology, no computers, right? And figure out, when a letter is addressed to Private Bob Smith in Europe, how do we get it to the right Private Bob Smith? They figured it out. They went through casualty lists of units and rosters, as well as certainly some of those packages and letters had to be sent back home because the soldier had been killed. They dealt with all of that, 2+ years worth of backlogged mail. They were told they had 6 months to clear it out of England. They did it in less than 3 months. So like all good things in the military, your reward for doing a really great job, you get to do another really suck job, right? So they sent them to France to do the same thing. And once again, they went through in record time. They now had a system. They were working 24 hours a day, 3 8-hour shifts, 7 days a week, and getting this mail cleared out and taken care of. And I gotta tell you, one of the most interesting stories across all of this certainly is early on when they first arrived, Major Charity Adams Early, which we have an exhibit with her, as well as her uniform that she wore in World War II. We have it in the memorial right now. It's fascinating. But she was told, this commanding general in England, American, wanted a full battalion inspection. Well, she had been given other marching orders. So if you weren't sleeping and you weren't working, which meant 1/3 was available to stand for inspection. Well, the general didn't like that. He's like, you have more people than this. Where are they? And so she explained her rationale. He didn't like it. And he told her, I could get a white lieutenant to do a better job than what you're doing. And she, interestingly enough, fully expecting to be courts-martialed for saying what she said next was, over my dead body, this is my unit. She did not get courts-martialed. She ended up retiring ultimately as lieutenant colonel much later, but she led this unit amazingly. When they ended up over in France, one of their Jeeps overturned, and at one of the cemeteries, American cemeteries in France, there are only 4 American women laid to rest there. 3 of those 4 are from the 6888. So they remained in France forevermore. So if you ever get over there and you want to check them out, they've got some amazing stories. So let's go on to the next slide.
You all are in for a treat. We have a little preview of this documentary where we're going to honor these women. And so I just encourage you to enjoy for a minute, and then we're going to talk about why we haven't heard about this really much before. And so here we go.
Six 888 Central Postal Director started in Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia.
We call it 6888 CPD.
That's when I was overseas with 6888.
We call it the 6888.
The entire country was mobilized in support of the World War.
In July 1943, General Eisenhower had asked for women to be sent to him, and auxiliaries were not allowed to be sent overseas. So at that time, they started to create the WAC bill, the Women's Army Corps bill.
I said, a WAC? I said, I had a cousin that was a WAC. She said, really?
Many of the women in World War II were recruited because of their skills. But at the same time, I sometimes wonder how much they don't really realize what role models they are for the generations of women that come behind them.
White people never expected anything of us. You see, so when you got out there and did something that was extraordinary, they said somebody else must have done that.
While telling that story and documenting what these particular military units that in most cases were all military, were all black. And most of them had a white commander, but those soldiers still performed at the same level as their white counterparts in terms of defending and providing for the democracy of this country.
I think I've watched that documentary 25 times. I cannot get enough of it. It blows my mind that, you know, and that's why I say sometimes chokes me up a little bit because, and still they served. A country that did not take good care of them, they still raised their right hand, went overseas and did their duty like any other American when they certainly weren't treated like any other American. I'm really, you know, it's flabbergasting to me. So I see in the chat, somebody was putting in there, and yes, you're right. And we have written, as the president of the Military Women's Memorial, fortunately, it does give me the opportunity to write letters of support, which I've done to both the House and the Senate, pushing again for the Congressional Gold Medal for the 6888. We've done it a number of years. It made it through the Senate last year. It did not make it through the House. They did not have enough co-sponsors. But we'll be showing you how you can support this. Certainly, those two have links, the House of Representative Bill 1012, Senate Bill 312, really interesting in how you can help us. So the next slide, I think, also covers down on a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's just important that everyone knows, like, we all have a responsibility here right now. These women deserve to be celebrated and acknowledged for the path that they paved. So thank you for this opportunity, and we'll be sharing all of this as a follow-up with several calls to action for you all to get involved on behalf of these incredible women.
Right, so here's the template letters that you can use to get hold of your senator and representatives to let them know you support it. We also have talked a lot. I've made mostly Zoom or Teams meeting calls with both representatives and the staffers, and they all agree. You'd be surprised. It only takes 4 or 5 phone calls or emails on a particular topic to a district or a DC office for them to pay attention. So you and a couple of friends in your hometown district make those phone calls and let them know that the 6888 needs to go. They need to co-sponsor this. You can also check first and see if they have, because we have a fair number already that are on board, both in the House and the Senate. And so we're tracking that mightily. We've got to get it, it has to be done in a single calendar year, because we didn't make it by the end of December of last year. We got to start all over again this year. But it's the same 2 sponsors, primary sponsors, and now everyone we talk to, we're asking them to please co-sponsor it.
Well, you can see this is really well organized. You can see where your member stands, where your senator stands, whether they're involved, and there's all the information and letter templates. So when we encourage every one of you, get involved, ask your friends, ask your family, like, these women deserve this acknowledgement. So thank you, Phyllis, for that.
Yeah, and the last point of this, I told you there were 855 of them. We're down to 7 that are still alive. They're all 97 and older. We just lost 1 in February. So it's really, really, really super important to us. Obviously, we want to see this done. And for some, at least the 7 of them that remain to be physically present to receive it. But I will tell you, out at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, there is a monument already erected and installed several years ago. And they were there. The women of the 6888 were physically there, many of them in wheelchairs, wrapped in blankets, because they brilliantly did it in February in the middle of winter. But it's over near where the Buffalo Soldiers monuments are also at Fort Leavenworth. So we are working through this, but it just needs a groundswell. So share this with a couple other people, get them to share it, and make those phone calls or emails. Just find your local representatives and shoot them an email about this. All right, next slide. The future, where are we going next? So we just 2 weeks ago brought out this new exhibit, The Color of Freedom, which honors the diversity of America's servicewomen. So we have everything from Harriet Tubman to, yes, Charity Adams Early, the commander of the 6888, and her uniform is on display. You've got to come see it to imagine what she did. It's just unbelievable. And we have a Navy Admiral, Philippine American, who in her quote, she says, she was the first Philippine American to become an admiral, male or female. And she said, it's finally time that in the Navy, Philippine Americans do not need to come in through the garage, the back door, or the kitchen, because they were always help. They were never the admiral. And so, you know, for her to break down the grounds, Admiral Howard, first woman, not first Black woman, first woman to become a 4-star equivalent admiral in the Navy. I mean, I just think these groundbreaking things. And yes, I can't talk much about it because it will make me cry. We did include Vanessa Guillen.
Thank you for that. And I know I had the privilege of planning Admiral Howard's promotion ceremony when she put on her first star, hosted at the Military Women's Memorial, and what an honor that was in part of my career. So
yeah, and all of the most senior first women in all of the services are our honorary board chairs. So Admiral Howard, she's very involved with us, Ann Dunwoody, Vivian Cray, you name them, we've got them. And they are honorary board chairs. Yes, next slide.
Our power. Love
yes. We do have a YouTube channel as well. And so if you go find the Women in Military Service for America Memorial YouTube channel, subscribe to it, you'll find we did a unveiling of the Color of Freedom. It's 25 minutes or so. You can find that as well as some other great videos. So subscribe, and as we add more videos to YouTube, you'll get notified if you want to click that little bell so you get notified. Upcoming events. This year is the 100th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, 100 years. So we have a picture here of the first woman of 5 that were tomb guards. And on the right-hand side, you see it looks sort of like a tea room. Well, we're going to do in the Hall of Honor, where we have 3 large marble slabs, we're going to do afternoon teas. These 3 large marble slabs, and it's the Hall of Honor where we honor our fallen women. Those slabs are 100+ years old. They were quarried as part of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. They quarried extra slabs in case something cracked, broke, or chipped. We have the 3 backup stones, which we have for years have been lovingly referred to as the sister stones to the Tomb of the Unknown. So shortly, we think by May, June, July timeframe, we will be offering afternoon teas for a small group. You can either get a single table of 4 or book the entire room of about 40 people, where you'll come in and get about a 20-minute overview about these 5 amazing women, because you have to be between 5'10" and 6'2" to be a tomb guard. Well, I'm 5'6", I'm SOL on that one, but there you go. So we'll talk a little bit about them, about the tomb, the 100th anniversary, and certainly about these sister stones, and then leave you to enjoy that. And also, because of the time of day, you'll be able to either walk or take the trolley up and witness the changing of the guard of the Tomb of the Unknown. And right now, one of the sergeants of the guards is a female E7. Not only is she one of the regulars that just walks, she is the one that inspects the weapons at change of guard. So next slide. So how you can help any woman that has ever served in any of these categories, including We just had a woman that in the public health service, she's an 06 in public health service. They're commissioned corps. They're eligible. The Merchant Marine, NOAA. They also serve Red Cross, USO, especially even today. We have women that go to Afghanistan and Iraq and other places with the USO. Back in the day, the YWCA, the YMCA, the OSS of World War II, all of those are eligible, as well as, I love the one, as home front honorees, such as you'll see AWVS, that's the Auxiliary Women's Voluntary Service. Betty White, Golden Girls Betty White, who's 99, was AWVS. I registered her a couple of weeks ago, found great pictures of her in uniform. She drove a truck, like a gut truck. That's what's the right word, Kelly? What's another word for that?
I have no idea.
The snack truck, had all the sandwiches and whatnot. She drove it up into the Hollywood Hills where soldiers were training and bivouacking. And that was her task, was to drive a truck up there so they could get sandwiches and something to drink and whatever. So that was her job for nearly 4 years.
Gee-dunk, we call that gee-dunk.
Gee-dunk, yes, that's the gee-dunk. But to us, that's where you got to pay money to, your snack bar kind of a thing. Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. And likewise, that very last one before the red, the U.S. Public Health Service Cadet Nurse Corps. This is the other thing we're talking up on Capitol Hill, and we could use your help as well. The Cadet Nurse Corps was stood up through part of the Public Health Service because so many nurses were sent overseas, because we had a war on two fronts, Pacific and Europe, that 80% of the nursing positions in our stateside hospitals were vacated. So it was a huge nursing shortage. So they called, and you had to be 21 to join the military as a woman in World War II. So they allowed high school graduates, 17 and older, to join the Cadet Nurse Corps, and you worked for 3 years in a hospital training to become a nurse, but you worked on the floor as a candy striper and then worked your way up over those 3 years. This is the last 180,000 women answered the call. The war ended faster than anticipated, and 120,000 completed all of their training and went on and served as nurses, either in the military, in public health, or as a civilian. This is our last large group of individuals that answered a call, wore a uniform, signed an agreement to serve. And I just talked with a lady the other day who said, it was at General Vaught's 91st birthday, by the way, that she heard when Roosevelt signed it, personally heard it because she's a cadet nurse herself, that Roosevelt said, you are definitely qualifying for veteran status. They do not have veteran status to this day. They don't want benefits. All they want is Congress to approve them to be recognized as a veteran, so they have the right to have a flag on their coffin.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
That's all they want. So when you contact for 6888, mention the Cadet Nurse Corps. We don't have the bill numbers yet. They've not come out, but stay in touch and check us on our website. We'll be putting that out as well as on our social media. So it's really important. Next slide. There you go. Once you register your story, you can look just like Kelly, only maybe for me, I'm not that fit and trim anymore, Kelly, but I love it. So Kelly went in online and she can talk a little bit about, she added her memorable experience, her dates of service, her awards and decorations, and her highest rank. So this is how we go through all of this. It's really important you get your member number. So Kelly, how hard was it for you to do this?
This is really easy to do. And I will admit, it feels a little self-serving to do it and to be, to say, oh, look at my profile. But then I think about all of the money that people are spending on Ancestry.com right now to like research their family legacy and history, and how easy it is just to tell my story, like it's mine. And to be able to have this as records for generations to come was just a moment. So I encourage you, if you're a woman veteran, to just go and record your story and just roll with it. And if you know a woman veteran, you can also register on behalf of someone else. As Phyllis said, we need to get Betty White into the Military Women's Memorial, but it's so cool that we're able to record her story on her behalf. But this is a super easy experience, and there's obviously lots of easy help ticket options if you have any trouble. But I encourage everyone to do it. And I can't read the chat right now, but I hope you all are making fun of me because that would be very appropriate.
They are not making fun of you. They are not. I'm watching it, but no. So yeah, it's really important. Let's go on to the next slide. I will tell you, this is how you can help us. We have 10% of the women that are eligible to tell their story in our database. So tell the story, tell your story, find other people to share and tell their story. It's so incredibly important that we tell this. I will give a quick vignette. There was a lady I know that is a twin. She and her sister both served. They ended up visiting Washington, D.C. They brought their mother along. Her mother cried because at the memorial, you can cast your story, your profile, like Kelly's, up onto a large screen television. We have 3 of them. We put both stories, each of her twin daughters, up on the screen. The mom cried to imagine that her girls are memorialized, or their story is being told in a national memorial on the Mall of Washington, D.C. Not just hometown America knows about these 2 girls that are badass. They know, the nation knows. And that mom, that was a proud mama moment, if ever. And it lives on into perpetuity. I've seen great grandkids that have only known their granny, that now she's 99 and they're under 9 years of age. So they've only seen this old granny lady. And when they see her picture come up as a 22-year-old with her lipstick and little rouge cheeks from World War II, they're like, what? That's my grandma? It changes. And this one kid, he was adamant. He wanted that printout, the color printout that we can do. He wanted it done. That family, I think they ended up getting 7 of them to take home with them. So it's important. And while it may seem like you're going to marginalize yourself, I'll admit, I didn't even do a retirement ceremony when I left the military. I was like, yeah, it's not that big a deal. I did claim my space here though. And I think it's important. I want my sons and daughters, my grandkids, my great-grandchildren, and really America to know what we have all done, because collectively, not one of us have done anything so amazing, but you knit us all together. And I'm telling you, we are a powerful group that when you study it and you look at it, that's how it's important. My sister was injured in basic training and she got out at 7 months time in service. And she's like, you raised your right hand. You were willing to do that. It's not my fault. She's a little 85-pound wimp at the time. You know, I was 5'6". She was exactly 5 foot tall and weighed 85. And she should have gone a different branch of service than the Army. That's all I can tell her. It was too hard for her little frail chicken legs. And she didn't make it through, but she tried. And she, you know, she's living with the injuries to this day that she incurred trying to get through basic training, because she wanted to recycle and put me back in, coach. She's tough, she's just little. But I wanted her story to be told, because I think those are important too, that we need to tell the stories that sometimes physically, I mean, it's a contact sport. Military is not for the faint of heart or the faint of chicken legs. I'll just tell you, I love her dearly and she knows it. But it's important that we all claim our spot. So please do so. I'll yield. I know I've gone long, sorry.
I love it. And I think it's important, right? It's a perfect example of what we do in life. Here's a quote for you: echoes through eternity. And I think this is a great way for all of us to get involved and to share the small part that we played. And I will say the hardest part was actually just picking one memory, right? There's, for so many of us, there's so many. So how do you summarize a career of service through that way? So Phyllis, we are just so grateful to your knowledge, to your advocacy, for your career of service, for being a trailblazer for all the rest of us, and for spending this time with us. For everyone that's on the line, don't leave just yet. We have another incredible presenter who's going to talk about some current outreach efforts, but thank you, Phyllis, for being with us today. It is my honor and privilege to just welcome another great trailblazer, Kate Hendricks Thomas. You can find her online, Kate. She's a Marine Corps veteran, a wonderful mother, and she's here to talk about some current research efforts that are going on so we can influence programming for the future of our women veterans as we are growing. So thank you, Kate, for being with us today.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me, Kelly. I just want to echo everything that Phyllis said. I have been using WIMSA for research to host events. I even attended a celebration of life at WMSA. I have all kinds of memories of the memorial really just giving credibility to our service in a beautiful venue. And I'm really glad to learn that it's doing well and is going to be there for us in the future. I believe strongly, I was in the Marine Corps in what seems like another life, but I believe strongly that we owe something to the women that come after us. We leave the military with our experiences, our stories, and our knowledge, and we have the ability to make things better for the women who are entering after our watch is over. And so everybody does that in a slightly different way. Some people volunteer, get involved with the Institute. I became a military health researcher, and I started doing research, which sounds like such a boring word, right? We think about research as not really impacting policy or advocacy or services on the ground. But I'm here to tell you that some of the research happening in the military health community is incredibly impactful, and it's exciting because it matters in the near term. And that's what we're trying to do with this project, if we could go to the next slide. So this needs assessment is born out of some work that I did in partnership with a team of researchers and the Service Women's Action Network. And we ran focus groups and analyzed data, and we had a lot of different op-eds written about some of our results. And we had some really interesting results that wound up getting published in a journal and presented and really shared with the veteran service organizations community. And that data point was simple. 75% of our respondents were not involved with a veteran or military service organization, which is a major source of both social support and resourcing for us after we leave the service. It's one way that our transitions are a little bit harder if we don't feel like those are places that are supposed to be there for us. So we were able to share those data with other veteran service organizations who want to continue the work now. So we're doing another needs assessment, asking some deeper questions, asking a few more questions, and all of the data is going to be given away. So the research team has folks, a lot of women veterans on it, Kayla Williams, Carl Hamner from the University of Alabama, Carrie Fletcher from St. Thomas. And you may recognize some of these names. You may have, read policy papers that they wrote, because what we're trying to do is make the needs assessment results useful immediately. So we want the data to go to every veteran service organization out there. We want it to go to state VA offices. We want people to be able to do something with these results. We want their programming to be smarter, more accessible, and more culturally appropriate because they listened to something that you said on this survey. So I'm asking for your help today, taking the survey yourself, but also sharing it with others. We're doing something called convenient sampling, and we're passing it around our community and hoping to get as many people as possible to respond. So that would be my ask for you. I believe very, very strongly in the power of research to make change. And I can tell you that the data we've pulled in the past has been presented to the House Veterans Affairs Committee. It's informed actual advocacy and actual policy, and that's what we're trying to do with this effort. So I would be honored if you would take the survey. We have a QR code for the survey. I will find a way to send that out to everyone. And then we thank you for sharing the link to the survey in chat as well. I would be happy to answer any questions folks have about the team or the survey itself or what we're going to do with the data. But really, I'm just thankful to have been here to learn from Phyllis Wilson. I learned a tremendous amount today, and I am updating my WMSA profile right after this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate, and thank you to you and the great University of Alabama team for spearheading this important research. Please get involved. Look, you all thought you were coming to just hang out for an hour, and we are giving you plenty of things to do to get involved. And on behalf of our women veterans, we have one more thing that we want to tell you about, and it's just incredible. So, and this is soon. It's not too late to sign up. Join the PSTWA Challenge. So our friends over at Wear Blue Run to Remember are honoring the PSTWA Challenge. Is named after SPC Lori PSTWA, and she was the first female American Indian service member killed in combat and in Iraq. And followed behind her is another 174 women. And so there are forming teams of 8 to run 174 miles together. We have a Combined Arms team. There's a Mission Continues team, the Foundation for Women Warriors team. Get involved. Look, this is a great way to honor the legacies of the women who gave and sacrificed everything on behalf of our country. We got, look, Phyllis has got a t-shirt she's showing, but we can't see it because your background. So much goodness going on. There's definitely a Women in Military Service Memorial team. Look, these women sacrificed their lives for us. These women paved the trails for us. And I, like I said, on behalf of our friends and partners at the Military Women's Memorial, Grace After Fire, the Foundation for Women Warriors, the Mission Continues, and Combined Arms, I am just thrilled to join you in this celebration today. So we encourage everyone to get involved, whether it's updating your profiles at the Women in Military Service Memorial, advocating for the 6888, taking and sharing the Women's Research Memorial. And I'll tell you, I even joined this PS2 Challenge. This does not excite me at all, but I'm gonna do it on behalf of these women with my team, and I'm just thrilled to honor these women in this way. It's such a privilege and an honor. We're so grateful to our friends for providing this opportunity for us. So.
And Kelly, if I may quickly, the other in the Color of Freedom exhibit, we have Charity Adams' early 6888 uniform, and the other uniform we have is Lori's. It's been loaned to us by her family, so we have Lori Paesto's uniform there. So it was very important for us, of course, to pick up the mantle and it only works out to about 2.7 miles a day per person if you get an 8-person team. So we're all in. I think we have 2 teams coming from the Military Women's Memorial. So it's a great way to pay homage to 174 women that gave everything.
Absolutely. And with that, we would just like to thank you for joining us and for honoring all of our women today and celebrating Women's History Month with us. We wish you all a great rest of your day, and we'll be sure to follow up with you with all this great information about how you can get involved and take some action. We'd love to hear your feedback about this event and some of the great things we can continue to do together. So great to hear from you all. I can see the chat now. I'm just so glad you all spent the time to join us this afternoon. We wish you all a great rest of your day, and thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.